We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest for this afternoon, Dr. Sherihan Qammash. A very good afternoon to you, Doctor, who is a researcher in political science. Doctor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for interviewing me today.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, Doctor. Let me start by asking you, what is the importance of the Qatari Emir's visit to Egypt now, of course, in light of the successive global events?
Well, this visit comes after 7 years, no visit from Qatar to Egypt since 2015. It's very important because we see a lot of changes happening in the region those days, and also a lot of challenges in the whole world due to many fields. So this visit is very important to normalize relations between Qatar and Egypt. Also, it has a lot of positive points that we see during this meeting, like signing economic agreements and pumping Qatar investment into Egypt, especially in the field of energy.
Yes, indeed. Now, Qatar, of course, Dr. Shireen, enjoys strong investments in Egypt in spite of, some of the diplomatic rifts in the past years. How important is this, and how does this meeting today renew, collaboration in this front?
Well, as I said, the region, a lot of changes happened in our region those days, and I can see a big cooperation between all the Arab countries. Like we saw a few days ago, the visit of the Saudi as well. So a lot of information and a lot of cooperation between all the countries those days. And as I said, it's the first official visit from Qatar to Egypt since 7 years.
Yes.
And what we saw, and the point was mentioned during this visit, was it's all about cooperation. It's all about pumping investments from Qatar to Egypt in all fields: agriculture, trading, power. So we will see a lot of strength in economic relation between Egypt and Qatar, and a lot of new investments between the two countries in the next period of time.
Right, indeed, Doctor. Now, Egypt plays, of course, a pivotal role, with Arab Gulf states, and we've seen, the Emir himself, hailing Egypt's role with regards to its role in the Arab region. Tell us a bit about the importance of the Egyptian role in the Arab Gulf region.
Well, the Egyptian role is very important. Where we have mentioned this through the years and through the history, of course. Egypt is always the country which collect and cooperate with all the Arab cases and all the Arab countries. So Egypt has a big role since a lot of times in the history till now. We can also say that Egypt is making a big effort in for all the Arab countries, especially for Palestine. So in reconstructing Palestine. And this is very known for all the Arab countries. Absolutely. We try to have a role and deal with all the crises in the region those days, especially that we can say that there is changes in the Arab-American relations is going through those days. There is a big development, especially that we will see Biden is coming
Saudi Arabia,
yes. Countries.
Indeed, all the Arab leaders will be attending this very important meeting in Saudi Arabia with the American president's visit. Also a very important development for the Arab region as a whole. Dr. Sherihan, now, the talks between the Qatari Emir and President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi also touched on the Palestinian cause as the Qatari Emir hailed the Egyptian activities in Gaza's reconstruction, as well as the shared vision for the Palestinian people in their legal battle for an independent state. How important were the talks on this front in today's meeting, Doctor?
Well, the whole world is witnessing the big role that Egypt is making for Palestine, not only Palestine and reconstruction Palestine, but also in the development of the Arab
sphere, yes.
Countries, and yes, in the development of all the countries around Egypt. So the whole world is witnessing now economic crisis, inflation, and increase in the prices. So what I see now is all the Arab countries, they are trying to make cooperation. They try to get more attached, more bigger deals, bigger cooperation between them, so they can face all those crises that the whole world is witnessing right now. Especially, it's very, very well known that there is a big bond between all the Arab countries, and all of them, they are aligned to each other, especially that it has a problem with Qatar before, and now this problem doesn't exist anymore. And all the Arab countries, they are one hand, they are working all together in cooperation to, so we can say to be one hand in front of all the crises, international crisis and the crisis in the Arab region as well.
Absolutely. Dr. Sherihan, today, of course, amongst the talks on the agenda between Sisi and Tamim, the negative repercussions of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict on the global economy, as well as issues related to security of the region, as well as food security, amongst, of course, the global challenges as a result of the war. How important were these discussions in this regard? Also, after a few memorandums of understanding were also signed for economic trade and investment levels.
Well, this crisis has mentioned and has caused a lot of problems, especially in Europe, especially for all the alliance for USA due to the power. Yes. So we're trying to see right now the big image of this situation is USA is trying to replace Russia by the Gulf countries and Egypt in cooperation with the other Arab countries to replace Russia. If this is possible, this is what we cannot confirm it right now, but what we can see is there is a step back, because during Obama's time and sometimes they had to, or they wanted to go due to China and check about China and if they will replace USA or not. And they try to find other places or other countries for the power and for the petrol. But now we can see that USA is coming back again for the Gulf and the Arab countries. And what is happening actually is historical. And it's a very big point and turning in all the relation of all the Arabs. So they will not meet Biden right now. Each country is different and has a different point of view. But what is happening is they're trying to make a big bond between them, cooperation. So this is what we can see from all the visits from all the authorities, Saudi or Qatari with Egypt, and of course with the other countries. So crisis, what's happening right now, this conflict between Ukraine and Russia gives us that chance to be, all the Arab countries, to be one hand again in front of and against the whole world, to work together, more cooperation, and in all the fields, not only power, but in all the fields, trading, economics, agriculture. So this actually is history. We are making history, of course, under the leadership of Mr. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Dr. Sherihan Qammash, our researcher in political science and our guest for this afternoon. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and your insight. Ladies and gentlemen, a short break, and we'll be right back to continue this episode of Cairo Local Time. Stay tuned.